What's up guys, NintendoKid here, and my excitement level is through the roof as I've been waiting a long time to make this video, and you're in for a hell of a ride today. You see, last week my brother and sister-in-law came to visit us to see their little baby niece, #NintendoKid Jr. And they didn't show up empty-handed, as they presented me with 2 copies of the now official NintendoKid shirt. #merchandise, #branding. Thanks a ton guys, I greatly appreciate it, and I'll be sure to wear them in some of the upcoming videos. But perhaps the best thing yet was that Nintendo, where is my commission by the way, that they both bought a Nintendo Switch. But as the intro and title to this video have already revealed, I finally got my hands on the elusive iQue player, and I'm going to show you today just what it is all about, as this is perhaps the most obscure Nintendo console ever to be released. In fact, I'm babysitting a second one right now for a German friend who's a game collector, and I've put a link to his Instagram feed down below. So sit back, relax, and as Mario would say, let's go! Nintendo dominated the 80s, most of the 90s, and pushed on well into the noughties, with an impressive array of ever-evolving gaming consoles being released, both for the home console industry as well as the handheld side of things. Over in Europe, the US, Canada, Australia, Nintendo's homeland Japan, and various other territories spread across the globe, Nintendo was a household name and was sold over every counter, being the biggest exception one of the most populous countries in the world, China. The Chinese government had put into effect something of a video gaming ban, directed specifically at arcade halls and the sale and distribution of home consoles. This didn't stop the aspirations of the Big N though, as their team set to work on one of the most technologically advanced consoles of its time. Nintendo, joining forces with local company iQue, came up with an engineering marvel, taking the popular Nintendo 64, one of my absolute favorite consoles ever, and basically compressed it into a single chip, were able to fit the entire console's architecture and managed to squeeze the hardware required for a full-fledged controller into this little casing, as well as having enough space for both games and storage space for save games and manuals, in essence creating a plug-and-play system which would circumvent the gaming console ban. Even now, a decade and a half later, holding my Nintendo Switch, which is undoubtedly a work of art on any level, I am amazed at the accomplishment of what is called the iQue player. The iQue player controller has been given a complete makeover compared to its original N64 counterpart. However, the button layout is quite the same, with the main deviation being the joystick, which was of course in the middle portion of the trident, being moved all the way up here to the corner. The joystick of the iQue player is quite the same as the Nintendo 64 other than its location, and I'm most fortunate to have come across 2 of them that are still very much intact, as these joysticks are known to be deteriorating quite quickly. The directional or D-pad of it is undoubtedly the most original one I have ever seen, but feels really natural. The shoulder buttons are as can be expected, with the Z button being tucked in a similar fashion as the Nintendo GameCube controller, which was released only 2 years prior outside of China. The general feel of holding this controller is absolutely phenomenal because of the way it curves down and the pockets there for your fingers, and the buttons are just in the right place, and as such it is a true work of art and a definite Nintendo product. Now, for those of you who have ever picked apart or opened up a Nintendo product, you must be quite familiar with those nasty tri-wing screws, and it is interesting to see that this console, which is held together by just a few screws, only features the Phillips screws, and there is no tri-wing screw in sight. The cables required for audio and video input, as well as the power cable, have been tucked into one cable, creating this proprietary cable with this one port going up into the iQue player right there. The flash drive, which was ahead of its time, is nicely tucked in here, and it is software protected in order to be used only with the iQue player it was sold with, to avoid piracy. And the encryption used on the card as well as the games have stood the test of time, as only a few months back, almost 15 years to the date, the iQue player has been hacked. Even though the Nintendo 64 was a powerhouse for its time and required a massive heatsink, the iQue player does pretty much the same job and heats up. It doesn't reach any level of uncomfortableness even after extended periods of graphically heavy-duty gaming. The iQue player only stuck around for a few years as the Chinese market proved to be more than they had bargained for, selling only between 8 and 12,000 units, with console clones in abundance, unwillingness to pay for games even though the prices were dirt cheap, and the player came with a couple of free time-limited demos. Only 14 games saw their release for the iQue player, 15 if you include the Taiwanese version of The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. All reworked for the Chinese market, save for a few games. While I had quite an impressive Nintendo 64 collection of games, I came across some titles I have never ever played in my life, like Custom Robo and Sin and Punishment, both of which only have ever been released in Japan on the Nintendo 64, not counting the Virtual Console versions, and are considered to be among the best games ever on the Nintendo 64. Thanks to Shenzhen-based company If Links Electronics, who sent me this AV to HDMI converter, I can play the iQue player and, for example, my old Nintendo Wii through HDMI cable. So I don't have to switch to the AV channel on my TV, and at the same time I can capture footage with the same HDMI capture card I always use. Thanks a lot, you guys, and for those out there who are still rocking some AV controlled gaming system or any other system, grab yourself one of these little things. They hardly cost $1, and I've put the link in the description down below. Listen. So far I've played around a little with Sin and Punishment, and it's hard to put the controller down. Sin and Punishment is a so-called on-rail shooter, which I only got to know through the trophies in Super Smash Bros. I am planning on getting a dedicated Let's Play or game review series out for some of these iQue player game titles. Today is a mere introduction. The Nintendo 64 saw a whole slew of accessories being released for the system during its lifetime. However, the iQue player wasn't so fortunate because of its very nature of being a plug-and-play system. However, there are a few accessories available, one being the Swim Box. It's a bit awkward name, but the Swim Box is basically a multi-tab which lets you play locally with your friends up to 4 people. And in order to play with your friends, you're going to need to get yourself some iQue player Swim controllers. The latter of which looks quite similar to the iQue player, except that those are black instead of grey, and they only feature hardware required for the actual controls. Both of these accessories are quite rare and are being sold at top dollar. So if you guys know anyone who's sitting onto these and looking to pawn them off, be sure to drop me a message, as I'm hoping to pick one of those up. It's an exciting time in the gaming industry, and with the memory of the iQue player and Tencent's first game on the Nintendo Switch being Arena of Valor, it's only a matter of time and speculation when and how Nintendo will re-enter the Chinese market. And with that, guys, we have reached the last stop of this ride. I sincerely hope you guys liked this video at least half of how much I enjoyed making this one. And if you do, be sure to hit that like button, share this video with a friend, and you know what, leave a comment in the section down below if you own an iQue player, or perhaps you have played these exclusive games on the original Nintendo 64. And be sure to tell me which iQue player game you would like to see reviewed in the future. and I'll see you next time.